Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Taisis Dibra Maschel, Rechava Shisha Pater. Let's begin. Rechava Shisha Pater. If it's 6 tfachim wide, he's Pater. Abaye said that if somebody threw a basket that's 6 tfachim wide from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, he's Pater, because once it's 6 tfachim wide, it's not anymore an object, rather it's a Rishus, and he threw a Rishus from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, and for that he is Pater. So Taisis here is going to discuss whether the measurement of 6 tfachim is an exact measurement, or whether it really doesn't have to be 6 tfachim and it's just a chumrah that it needs to be 6 tfachim. So let's see Tosfos inside. Pirush Rabbeinu Chananel explains the dafka nokat shisha, that he specifically chose 6 tfachim. Only when it's 6 tfachim wide and 10 tfachim high will it really be considered a rishus hayachid. And the reason is, why do we need 6 tfachim? We learned in Rashi that the equivalent of 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim of width by a square, when we translate it to a circle, is 5 3/5 tfachim, or 5.6 tfachim. So why does he chose? How can we say that he specifically chose 6? He explains that doifnei kaveres yesh bam shnei chumshin, because the walls of the basket have 2/5. And he completes the point. And there needs to be 4 tfachim of ear in the basket and 10 tfachim of high. So Rabbeinu Chananel says that when it says 6 tfachim, he means it exactly 6 tfachim. And the reason is because the measurement of 5 3/5 is only referring to the ear in the basket. And in addition, we have a 5th for each end of the basket, totaling 6 tfachim. Or if we say 5.6 tfachim, it would be 5.6 tfachim of ear, and 0.2 tfachim for each wool, totaling 6 tfachim. So Rabbeinu Chananel says that only if it is 6 tfachim wide, and not less, will it really be considered a Rishus HaYachid, because the 5.6 or the 5 3/5 tfachim of a Rishus HaYachid only refers to the ear of the basket. It's not including the walls. So with the walls, it comes out 6 tfachim. Now Tosfos is going to address a question on this, and then he's going to actually talk about this explanation itself. The question he addresses is, Afal gav de ein aver gavoya yud ella im shalayim. Even though there's only 10 tfachim high of ear with the bottom, we don't have 10 tfachim of ear unless we also include the bottom in that measurement. How do we know that? Because if it was 10 tfachim of actual ear, then it comes out that including the base, the object is more than 10 tfachim, so it's coming to rest on a makom p'tor. So clearly by the height, we're including also the basket itself. So by the width we're saying it doesn't, and by the height we're saying it does. So answers Tosfos mitztarfim mima'aver le'inyan geiva. It combines with the ear in regards to the height. So by the width, Rabbeinu Chananel says it has to be all in the ear, but by the height, it can also include the base of the basket. So Tosfos is just completing his point and saying that even though by the height we don't have it, that's okay, because there it includes it. And he proves that by the height we also include the base. The hilchasa gidud hey umechitza hey mitztarfim, because the halacha is that a hill that's 5 tfachim high and walls that are 5 tfachim high combined. It says gidud hey umechitza hey mitztarfim. Tosfos understands that to mean gidud hey refers to a hill, a mound, and umechitza hey refers to walls built upon it. So it says that this area now is a Rishus HaYachid. Even though there's only 5 tfachim of ear, nevertheless we include the base of the Rishus HaYachid, the hill, and it combines to be 10 tfachim, and it's now a Rishus HaYachid. And now Tosfos is going to support what he's saying by negating a question in it, which is Afal Gav, the Rashi Pirish, the Gidud Hey, Mechitza Hey. Even though Rashi explains that Gidud Hey, Mechitza Hey, Hainu Sha'osa Mechitza Hey, Al Bar Amek Hey, is that he made walls that are 5 tfachim high on a pit that's 5 tfachim high. Rashi explains that Gidud Hey, Mechitza Hey, Mitztarfa means that if there was a pit that was 5 tfachim deep, and a person built walls around it that are 5 tfachim high, it combines to be a Rishus HaYachid. According to this, it's all 10 tfachim in the ear. So we don't find the teaching that says we also include the base of the Rishus HaYachid. It says Tosfos ein pirushay nira. His explanation doesn't seem correct, and he will now bring a proof that Rashi's explanation doesn't seem correct. 2 proofs. The Tanan, because we learned in a Mishnah, bar v'chul yosei mitztarfim. It says that a bar and its rim combine. So what that means is there's a bar that's, let's say, 5 tfachim deep, and then there's a rim around it of sand or mud, of earth, that's also 5 tfachim high. So it says in the Mishnah that they combine together to be a Rishus HaYachid. The imkain, and if so, heichi polig Rav Chisda leimer ein mitztarfim. How could Rav Chisda argue and say they don't combine the cave and the masnisni, since it's a Mishnah? We brought before the teaching gidud hey umechitza hey mitztarfim. However, Rav Chisda argues with this and says gidud hey umechitza hey are not mitztarfim. Now, if it means what Rashi said, that it's referring to a pit and walls, And Reb Chisda is saying that it's not a Rishus Hayachid. How can he say that? There's a clear Mishnah that says, Bar v'chol yosei mitztarfim. We do combine a pit and its surrounding rim. Reb Chisda is an Amayri, can argue with a Mishnah which is via Tana. So it makes no sense to Reb Chisda that the teaching of Gidud Hey and Mechitza Hey refers to a pit with walls, because then Rav Chisda is arguing with a teaching that's in a Mishnah. So therefore Tosfos proves that that's not what it means. Rather, Gidud Hey and Mechitza Hey is what he says, it's a mound with walls on top of it. There Rav Chisda says it's not a Rishus Hayachid, but the halacha is that it is. So we see that we also include the base. And another proof, over Chol Gages Amrinan Behedya, and in Perek Chol Gages we say clearly, we say openly, the Meider of Chisda B'Tachteina Hoyel V'Roya Pnei Yud. The Rav Chisda agrees by the low one since it sees the face of 10 tefachim. This is referring to two courtyards, one lower than the other. And so the distance between them, let's say, is 5 tefachim, and the upper courtyard has a wall that's 5 tefachim high. So regarding the upper courtyard, we say it's not a Rishus Hayachid because it only has a wall that's 5 tefachim high. However, regarding the lower courtyard, Rav Chisda agrees that it's considered a Rishus Hayachid since we combine the 5 tefachim of the wall to the upper courtyard plus the walls of the upper courtyard, which are 5 tefachim high, so there are 10 tefachim. Now, according to Rashi's explanation, that Gidud Hey and Mechitza Hey means the pit and the walls around it, and it's there that Rav Chisda says it's not a Rishus Hayachid. Rav Chisda is contradicting himself. There he says it's not a Rishus Hayachid when there is a pit with walls around it. We don't combine the two types of walls. And here he clearly says that it is a Rishus Hayachid with the lower courtyard, and we combine the walls of the lower courtyard and the walls of the upper courtyard. So it comes out according to Rashi, Rav Chisda is contradicting himself. And therefore Tosfos says that Rashi's explanation is incorrect, and he goes with his explanation that what the case of Gidud Hey and Mechitza is a hill with walls on top. There Rav Chisda said it doesn't combine, so it doesn't contradict his other teaching. But the halacha is that it does combine, so we see that for the height, we do include also the base. And therefore Tosfos concludes, Al tzarich lefarish the Gidud Hey and Mechitza Hey. Rather, we must explain that Gidud Hey and Mechitza Hey means Hainu she'asa Mechitza Hey al tel gavoya Hey, is that he made a wall that's 5 tefachim high on a hill that's 5 tefachim high. So there we see that by the height we include the base. So there, that was a side point that Tosfos went into, which is that Rabbeinu Chananel says that for the width, it's only the ear, and we can't include the sides. We pointed out a side point that regarding the height, we do include also the basket itself, and he had a discussion on that. Now Tosfos comes back to the actual teaching of Rabbeinu Chananel that for the width we don't include the walls. And Tosfos says ve'ein nira pirush Rabbeinu Chananel. Rabbeinu Chananel's explanation doesn't seem correct, and the reason is because the thickness of the rim of a pit, the thickness of the rim of the pit, mitztaref nami also combines l'cholol habar with the hollow of the pit la'arbar for 4 tefachim. When a person digs a pit, and it's, let's say, 3 tefachim wide, and each side of the rim is a half a tefach for 4 tefachim, it's a square, we say that this is a Rishus Hayachid. And the explanation is, Mishum dechazim lemeinach alei midi, because it's fit to place on it something, it's fitting to place on it something, well, lishtamish, and to use it. So the explanation for why this is considered a Rishus Hayachid, even though it doesn't have the 4x4 space, it's really only, let's say, 3x3, why do we consider it a Rishus Hayachid? Because with the rim it comes out to be 4x4, and the use the person could have is he could place something on top of it, and he has an area that's 4x4 tefachim wide and 10 tefachim high. Or for example, a basket, it's 10 tefachim high, and it's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide, even though we're including the rim. But a person could place something on top of it and use the whole thing. And he completes his point and says, Kida Amar bePerek Chaloin Gabi Meloi Kule B'Yisaydes, like we say in Perek Chaloin, regarding by where he filled the whole thing with pegs, he filled the whole Rishus Hayachid with pegs. We say it's still a Rishus Hayachid, although the person can't use it. The explanation is he could place something on top of it and use it. So the same thing over here with the rim, although the rim is not part of the space, he could place something on top of the whole thing, and he has an area that's 4x4 and 10 tefachim high, which he can use. And as a result, Tosfos concludes, rather we must say that that this that he chose here, 6 tefachim, loidak, he wasn't being precise, he wasn't being exact, Kedipirish Rashi, like Rashi explains, because we do include the sides, and therefore all we need is 5 3/5 or 5.6. So why does it say over here 6 tefachim? He wasn't being exact, and like Rashi explains, because he was being machmer to say that although by 5.6 it's already a rishus, we won't consider it a rishus till it's 6 tefachim wide. And if somebody threw something that's 5 3/5, it's considered as if he threw an object, and he'll be chayev midrabanan. So just to summarize, Tosfos brought the explanation of Rabbeinu Chananel that the requirement of the Rishus Hayachid by the width does not include the walls, and therefore it comes out that 6 tefachim is an exact measurement. He went to a side discussion that by the height we don't say that. By the height we do include the walls as well, or the base of the basket. And then he came back to the actual opinion of Rabbeinu Hananel and brought a question in it, and as a result he disagreed with Rabbeinu Hananel and said by the width of 4x4 we also include the walls, and therefore it comes out the requirement of 6 tefachim is not a precise requirement, and the reason why we required it anyway is just because it's a chumrah that we won't consider the Rosh Hashanah to be potter until it's 6 tefachim wide.